Steve, we've got the presentation of Mary today on the calendar. Now, this
Yes.
is one that, as you and I, former Protestants, we would have probably asked things like, where is the Assumption of Mary in the Bible? Where is the Immaculate
Yes.
Conception of Mary in the Bible? Where is the coronation of Mary in the Bible? And so on and so forth. Those are all questions worth asking. But a question that a lot of people don't think about to ask is, where is the presentation of Mary in the Bible? Because you also have to do a little thinking on this one.
Right, because it's not mentioned in the Bible, the presentation. So there's two different kind of presentations. I thought we should do that first. There's one presentation that is required of the Old Testament, that when a baby is born, they have to be presented before God at the temple. So we know about the presentation of Jesus. When he was 40 days old, he had to go to the temple. Mary and Joseph took him there. Mary had to offer a sacrifice. There had to be cleansing for ceremonial, not for sin, but for ceremonial cleansing. And then Jesus had to be presented to the priest at the temple. That is one that was required, and we know that that's even the fifth joyful mystery. Now, there's another presentation that we're celebrating today, the 21st of November, and that's Mary's presentation, because she was a miracle baby in the sense that her parents are very old and beyond child rearing age, and they gave her this special daughter. And as a reward or as a response to that, Joachim and Anna presented Mary at 3 years old to the temple to live there. So this is in the West, we call it the presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, but in the East, where it really began, it's called the entry of the Most Holy Theotokos into the temple. I like that title much better. So there are two different presentations. The one that every baby, especially firstborn, had to be presented at the temple, but then Mary's is a very special one. It's a dedication in the temple. And where do we find it in the Bible? We don't. But it is a document from the second century called the Proto-Evangelium of James. Very interesting document. And that document also tells us the names of Mary's parents, which we don't have in the Bible either, but that comes from the Proto-Evangelium of James from the second century.
What it does illustrate is that there was a tradition that people had about Mary's backstory. So,
Yep.
when we talk about this presentation, I think it's so fascinating that the Eastern Church talks about it as the presentation, the entry of the Most Holy Theotokos into the temple, because Mary is going to herself be a temple, right?
Yeah,
It's so
that's right.
fascinating.
Yeah. Theotokos is a Greek word that means theo means God and tokos means bearer, one who bears God. So she's the mother of God. And it's as such, a temple is a place where God dwells. Even in the pagan worlds, that they viewed that as the temple of Apollo, the temple of Zeus, or what. But Mary is, like you said, going to become a temple, and in her is going to be the Word of God inscribed in flesh. The old Ark of the Covenant had which was in the temple, had the Word of God inscribed in stone. But Mary becomes the new temple, in a sense, the new Ark of the Covenant, because in her is going to be the Word of God inscribed in flesh.
Now, I'm going to bring up one that you probably have heard, and it comes to when Mary goes now as a mother to present Jesus in the temple, because, one of the things that some people will say, and what you and I probably both would have said, is that Mary, how could we say that Mary is immaculate and sinless if it says clearly in Luke chapter 2 that she went and offered a couple of turtle doves or two young pigeons? Isn't she making an offering for sin? And why would she do that if she's sinless?
Just because Mary offers this sacrifice doesn't mean that she's a sinner. It means that she's obeying the law of Moses. The Holy Family obeyed the law of Moses better than anyone else, and they were required to do this. Just like Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River, and we don't say, oh, he was baptized to wash away his sins. We know that he wasn't a sinner. He did that as an example to us, and Mary does this as an example too. She's presenting her son to the temple, and she's following the requirements of the law by offering the turtle doves. So the Holy Family was not wealthy, so they would get at the presentation. They brought the two turtle doves, we're told in Luke, which gives us an indication that they were not wealthy, but they still followed the law. And in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, it says, in the fullness of time, God brought forth his son, born of a woman, born under the law, which means that Mary and Joseph and Jesus were all in a total obedience to the law and the requirements of all the sacrifices and all the obedience to every statute.